Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I know that a number of members of this committee weren't here back when Newt Gingrich was Speaker, but actually either in the Contract for America or subsequent legislation, there was a requirement previously that all the agencies of the federal government report very copiously on litigation brought under the Equal Access for Justice Act, and at that time the then Republican Congress saw fit to repeal that as nothing but a burdensome red tape creating requirement, and that had no meaning since the suits were not impacted in any way. And I would argue similarly here that an agency which I think both sides of the aisle would agree it does not have the resources to meaningfully and quickly process these applications, whether they move them forward or deny them. They just don't have the staff and the time to do that. And diverting staff and time resources into this exercise is certainly not going to help expedite the consideration of those petitions. I'd further note that, of course, this committee has added to the administrative burdens, and I've had this discussion. We had the Director of Fish and Wildlife here talking about having to reassign actual law enforcement agents to come up with data and information required by this committee under subpoena that went to the theoretical conspiracy that somehow the wind industry and the solar industry were being favored and were, in terms of being prosecuted for violations of the Endangered Species Act. I think during that hearing we pretty well dispelled that myth. But in any case, those people were diverted, substantial costs were incurred, and so I'm in the interest of time, I won't offer an amendment because I know what the result would be, but I would suggest that if we're going to look at things that deter the agency from meeting its statutory obligations, that we would require meaningful reporting of all of the costs incurred by all of the subpoenas. As I mentioned in one hearing, this administration at times may be incompetent, but I don't think they're capable of the grand conspiracies that have been spun out by this committee. But in the interest of time, I will forego the amendment. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Further discussion on